So first I want to give a massive thank you to all of you for participating in the Dress Down Day. And first I'm going to tell you a little quirky things about myself, and then I'm going to tell you my story, and then why Kelleigh's cause was started. And first, I'm the youngest of 4. I have an older sister who lives out in Colorado, an older brother who lives out in Michigan, and another older brother who's actually over there in red. And I like to read, but I really love to go to zoos because I love seeing the penguins. It's probably the best part of the whole zoo is just the penguins. And I was born in Michigan, but I moved to Syracuse, New York in the summer of 2010. And so when I was born, my mom noticed that I had a bruise on my right temple. And the doctors told her that, oh, it's just a hemangioma, it'll go away when I'm 7, be completely gone, nothing to worry about. But it kept getting worse as I got older. And so she kept going back and telling them about it, and they said the same thing. It's fine, it'll go away, you're getting a little paranoid, everything's all right. But when I was 2 years old, I was with my brothers, and I cut my lip open and had to go see a plastic surgeon for them to stitch it back together. And every couple months I would go and see him to make sure that my lip was healing correctly. And he even noticed that this wasn't getting better, the bruise was just getting worse. And so my mom finally convinced him to do a CAT scan. And they did the CAT scan, and my mom was correct, there was something wrong. It was much worse than a hemangioma. It was a rare, life-threatening disease called arterial venous malformations, or AVMs for short. And my parents found out that there's no cure for this. And since the disease is so rare, we had to go see a doctor out in Boston because she was the only one that could really treat me. And since then, 3 to 4 times a year, I've had to go out and have procedures every time I go out there. And every time I have this procedure, I'm at risk for going blind, becoming paralyzed, having a stroke, or even dying. And this procedure keeps me out of like hemorrhaging or going into congestive heart failure. So it's all good for me, but it's really risky. And in first grade, I had bad tissue on the back of my head. And so I had to have these things called tissue expanders. And they're kind of like water balloons, but they're like inside you. And every week, I'd have an injection to make it grow bigger so that the tissue would expand. And every week, I got Krispy Kreme donuts and a new doll for going out there and getting a shot in my head. And after 8 weeks, I had to go back to Boston, and they took the tissue expanders out, and I had 100 stitches in the back of my head because they had like connected new tissue. And the Monday before my first communion, I had a life-threatening reaction to my chemotherapy at the time. And I was in the ICU, in and out of consciousness for like a whole week. But on Saturday, I convinced my doctors to let me go and receive my first communion with all my friends. So I was on a 2-hour leave, and I had to go right back. And I still had my IV in my arm and my little ID bracelet on. And I had a head full of bedhead, and I covered over the veil because I hadn't brushed my hair in a week. And the same priest who gave me my first communion gave me anointing of the sick on Monday, which was pretty much my last rites. So that's something I'll always remember. And when I was 10, I had the disease moved into my airway, and I had to receive my tracheostomy because I had difficulty breathing without it. And exactly a year ago, next Friday, I had that trach removed, and hopefully I don't have to have it put back in. But that's something I like to think about as I accomplish that, if I don't need it anymore. And you guys helped me with that, because you're so supportive during all of it. And through all of this, I realized that God played a major role. He was always by my side. He's in all the people I've met. And one group of people, when I was first diagnosed, we shared a room with them. And when I was recovering, their daughter was also sick. And they heard everything that was happening to me. And they told my parents that they believed God placed them in that room so that they could take care of us and be our family on the East Coast. So every time I had to have surgery, I went and stayed at their house. And I didn't have to stay in a hotel, and my parents didn't have to spend the money. And we even spent Easter and Thanksgiving at their house before. And they became like a second family to us. And that's just so special to me because to know that God helped me and helped my family with strangers who we've never even met. We got to stay at their house, and it was so wonderful. But this past August, my doctor said that it's getting harder to treat my disease because of the location, and she's moving to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to start a research team at the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin to try and find a cure for this disease. And because it's so rare, there's no money available to help fund the research. So my family decided to start Kelleigh's cause to try and raise $150,000 so that we can fund this. And I know that it's bigger than me, and AVMs affect other people too. Like, I have a friend named Nikki who's 9 years old, and she lives out in London. And she's so precious. But I love her, and she's affected too. And I want to help people like her and people like me to make a difference in everyone's lives. And that's where you guys kind of come in. Because you were 1 out of 13 schools who participated in this Dress Down Day. We had schools from Lansing, Michigan to Syracuse, New York participating in this. And that's just, I'm so thankful for all of you. And you've been so accepting and supportive through all of this for me, coming to this school. So thank you all so much, and thank you for participating.